Let's move my back.
So it's actually 5 of us. It's the fucking whole band.
It's cool, man. That's awesome. Hey, this is Clint from the Doorway too, hanging out with. I think you pronounced the band Civerous, or am I way off?
No, it's Civerous.
Yeah,
All right, cool. All right, so I'm with Civerous here. Thanks for doing this very much, guys. If the 5th person's going to be in it, I don't see him right now, so he may want to be in the actual video.
Right. He's loading in his gear. It's our drummer.
Oh, that's fine. Then we can start without him. It's not a problem at all. So the first thing I kind of wanted to talk about was it looks like you released a live cassette and an album this year, and I kind of wanted to ask what the difference between the two of them was.
I was hoping no one fucking knew the difference of that.
Oh, well, honestly, I just consider like the live version of it kind of just more of like the demo version of it. It's just what we had. It was those songs at the songs at the time weren't set in concrete just yet. That was just the very beginning of the skeleton of all those songs. It wasn't, nothing was set in stone yet.
Cool.
So,
most of the vocal patterns weren't done. Most of the lyrics were already complete. They just weren't finalized in the way that they should have went. Some of the patterns are actually off. You can't tell sometimes, but it's completely different from the final product of the actual songs and stuff.
Okay, cool. I just also wanted to say I did get a cassette copy and I love that it's pink and purple. Okay, that is probably one of the coolest. I love when really extreme metal bands have a human side and realize how cool stuff like that is. So I kind of wanted to ask, was that done on purpose? Was that a thought all along to say okay, let's make it look as unmetal as possible for a cassette tape?
It's funny that you directly say that. There's such oversaturation of black and white or gray or red and stuff, and I personally my favorite color is pink.
Nice.
What I've noticed too in the past, I say in the past 2-3 years since death metal has really came back, people have been really focusing on these really crude black and white covers, or greens, stuff. And what I wanted to do is I saw albums keep coming out. Like I said, there were two-tone and stuff. I was like, you know what? Told the artist, let's do something crazy that would look cool in black and white, but let's do it in full color. And I want these colors. And I was really adamant on the purples and the pinks. And when I saw it done and fleshed out, it just looked so perfect to me.
Cool.
And the actual cover, the one that's on the digital has the blue logo,
mm-hmm.
But it was the idea to add the pink logo. And I think for the digital stuff, that they have that pink logo, and on the tape it has the pink logo, and that's just the best color match to me. You know what I'm saying?
Very cool. No, awesome. Like I said, I totally dig it. That's why I was asking. So,
yeah.
So I kind of want to get into a little bit about the music, because I see a lot of people referencing black metal for you guys, and maybe I'm fucking insane, but I don't hear black metal at all. What I hear from you guys is dirty old school death metal with a ton of doom influences. And like I said, are you actually influenced by black metal? Because I don't hear it in the music at all.
So for us, we originally come from a black metal background because of our other band, Tailwind. I think the black metal influence comes from some of the blast beat sections.
The atmosphere too.
The overall atmosphere, and some of our leads. I think that's where they kind of get the idea from of where some of the black metal influence comes from. But overall, yeah, it just we're a death metal band. But
yeah.
There's definitely influence in there because we have played in a black metal band, so there might be those small tendencies of some of that influence bleeding into that.
Personally, I prefer black metal over death metal. I mean, I love death metal and stuff and all that, but Dal and I have this little like inside joke that we tell people that we're like black metal guys playing death metal. So people might get that, get that little thing from there, I guess.
More specifically, I think we draw from like atmospheric black metal as well, just because there's just like a lot of aspects to that make like the Civerous sound a little more like wide, stereo, big, and such.
Less like classic and more like Pacific Northwest.
Less Pit Vipers and more
trees.
More trees, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I can hear like the cascadic black metal elements if that's what you're talking about. So yeah, that side of it I can hear. But I'm gonna kind of go more towards what you hate, the death metal side, because that's what I hear. So if I was to throw like a mixed pot of bands that are bands I would reference when I'm talking about your music, it would be like Bolt Thrower. It would be like Tomb Mold, like Blood Incantation, bands like that. Are those bands influences, or would you say that you're more on that atmospheric black metal side?
Honestly, I feel like the bands that really influenced us for our sound, Disembowelment, Spectral Voice, Crips, Inverlock,
Evoken,
and like a couple other like funeral doom bands and stuff.
So like super atmospheric, like heavier doom stuff for sure. And then maybe people think it's black metal too. Back to the last part, because all the like atmosphere that we do, we like try to make it more dark than brutal. And
less gore and more cancer.
Yeah, no. So I was going to get to that in a minute about the Doom side, because that was going to be kind of a detailed conversation, but thank you for jumping into it early and we can kind of have that talk now. So the reason why I love what you guys do so much is because it mixes death metal with that old cavernous death doom kind of vibe. And that's what I was just going to talk about, which is really funny. Like my favorite tracks on the record remind me of like Esoteric and Disembowelment and stuff like that. Like that's what it reminds me of, because it's got this big spatial kind of guitar feeling, and the drums kind of they're just at the point of chaos. Like that's kind of the way I always like to say it. Like it's controlled chaos, and it's one of the few death metal bands or doom bands or extreme metal bands, whatever you want to say, where the bass is interesting. Like if you take your time and listen to it, you can hear really interesting bass lines going on. And a lot of times you don't hear that today. And then I just kind of like wanted to talk about the vocals too, where they're not so guttural that you can't understand what's going on, but they're dirty enough that you have to kind of listen to hear what's going on. So can you kind of talk a little bit about the overall sound of the new record, the Decrepit Flesh Relic, and kind of talk how it all came together? And at the end of the day, are you happy with the result?
I mean, I would say personally from the vocal side, prior to the live promo, we actually did that split. And I was trying for more of like a Cookie Monster, like guttural aspect, and it like fit well for the songs at the time being. But when these guys started writing newer material, and like they said, it was more like atmospheric and like airy and wavy, I think that guttural sound would have cut through too much and been more of like a distraction rather than actually adding on and like helping the music.
I agree. Definitely just a different sound in regards to the vocals on the record, which I initially didn't expect, just because of the material that we had jotted down, not only on the split and the live promo, but even like the first demo, which is like some of my first, like some of like my favorite vocals from Isaiah. Those are like really nice, and just straight up brutal. So like to kind of hear what was tracked on the album was just like a nice change of pace and like just such a different like paintbrush on the album. So that was awesome. That was so cool to like see.
We actually did like a for the first 2 hours when I was doing vocals, we like did a run trying out those like really guttural Cookie Monster ones, and it just sounded like just way too distracting. Like I said, it like wasn't gonna fit well. But I mean, for the overall style of the record, would you guys do different this time?
I don't know. I was like having been inspired by like specifically Spectral Voice and like maybe like Lycus and some of those like more atmospheric bands. I wanted to kind of take that that like Doom initiative more towards a death metal like riffy sound, or just I don't know, like just kind of like just straight up fucking it up, like I don't know. In regards to any of the material that was jotted, that was like, you know, it's a little more death metal, like a little more riffy. It's like an evolved sound from that style of music rather than some of the more technical stuff that like Blood Incantation would like put out or something like that. It's not coming from such a technical like aspect. It's more of like a songwriting and like trying to like, you know, like just trying to see what you can put on paper and see how a song fits itself.
Yeah. And then I mean, not like saying band names. There were so many like death metal albums put out that really sounded like intro, chorus, and stuff. And then they like really put their heads together and like made it different. And really just made stuff different than what was popular right now. I mean, that's always kind of been our style. Is we kind of, even if no one likes it, I'm sure everyone says this, but we try to be unique, I guess.
Sure.
But I think him, because he just barely started getting like into metal a couple years back.
Yeah.
But I think him bringing his like influence from his like prog rock stuff, and then down I liking black metal. And then Drew's really into like his like pedal boards and all those sounds he makes and that stuff. It just made it a big like cloud of sound, honestly. That's how I see it.
And back to your comment in regards to like controlled chaos, that's definitely like an avenue we not only tried to explore, but just wanted to really orchestrate more or less, and which we will continue to do on the second record for sure.
Nice.
It's more orchestrated, fucking crazy shit.
I just feel like that we really, when the pandemic first like started happening, like we hadn't met up, so we were just sending each other like our ideas of riffs and stuff to each other, and then we would meet up when we could. And I felt like we really took the time to really focus and try to hone in like how the songs were starting to shape up and stuff, and what led to how the final product of what the album is now. You know, it just I feel like we really took a lot of like time to really I don't know, just to make it like what it is.
Yeah, from like writing time to the time that we finished tracking vocals, it was almost like a year.
Wow.
Actually, probably more. When did we start writing the material? I'd say like last spring.
No, like literally like right when the shutdown happened.
Yeah, right
after. Yeah, so like 2020 spring, we started writing the material because we had nothing to do. We didn't want to be one of those bands that just sat and like did nothing. So our other band put an album out, and then like Civerous, we just sat down and started writing stuff, and yeah, it just came out that way. So I'd say like from writing, from the picking up the guitar to finishing the vocals, it was a little over a year.
Cool.
Yeah.
You can hear it. There's time and there's space on the record where a lot of death metal or extreme metal doesn't have that, and you can feel the different layers. So you can feel the like the time care with it. So that's really cool. But what I'd like to do is talk about a couple songs in particular that are my favorite tracks, and then you guys can kind of talk to me about those. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Rot Delineated, and that is probably my favorite song on the record. And the reason why is it reminds me of old 90s Peaceville records.
Yeah.
So like if you could bring back old school Paradise Lost and Anathema, like I swear to God, like that's what that song is to me. So can you guys kind of talk about that track a bit for me?
Oh, you guys, yeah.
Honestly, like from where it started, I don't know, like I just wanted to come up with kind of an interlude thing, and I wrote out the chords that I was like picking and stuff, and then he, instead of the strings, he originally wrote the leads for the guitar, like as the guitar instead. And as we were talking about it, he was like, why don't we do strings over it? And that's when he arranged the string arrangements, you know, and it just came out the way that it did. And like like hearing it, like yeah, it definitely reminds me of like the Peaceville Three, like Paradise Lost, Anathema, and My Dying Bride, like
Yep.
those bands. Those bands are such a huge influence on me, and I'm happy that like you brought that up. So and like you recognize that, so that's awesome. But yeah, yeah.
For sure. In regards to like any of the strings, it's just like more or less because I arranged most of the string, all of the strings on the record, and I have a violin player by the name Aaron Chung. He also helps record on like a lot of other ambient projects that I do. So I don't know. It was just kind of a no-brainer in regards to how we wanted to orchestrate an interlude, like just trying to see how it would fit on the album.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't anything too thought out. It was just a matter of Daniel bringing a riff, me listening to the time, and I'm like, oh, it's in 3 waltz. Like this, like if I can hear a melody over this, then like I'm gonna fucking write it. And
Nice.
that was pretty much it. Like it was, as long as it sounded good, and then it like developed into like a full Doom section that like vamped out, and that was awesome too. And then we had Drew like kind of soundscape. Like we recorded that soundscape. I don't know. Do you remember?
That was in the tomb.
Yeah, in the Doom Tomb.
That was in the Doom Tomb, which is my garage with chains and candles. Yeah.
I don't know. You can speak on that a little more.
Yeah, so we're all like a bunch of gear nerds, and we have tons and tons of pedals and stuff. Like I used to have like an extra large board that I would bring, and I play bass, and you don't usually see that. So like the ending of Rot Delineated, when it's just making all those weird noises, is just me on Daniel's guitar, like going through like a wah and a data corruptor and a Sun life pedal and like a delay and a reverb, just like really just like cranking it. And the only notes they gave me was just like, okay, so like, you know, make the noise, but then like lead it into the same opening note as Hubiku. And I was like, okay. And that's why it just like plays right into it, was
Nice.
sitting there like playing with chords back and forth until it was ready to go.
Cool. So yeah, so that's gonna bring me into the next 2 songs. I'm gonna kind of bundle them together because they give me the same kind of vibe. And if I'm hearing something that's completely out of place, then that's even better, because that means you've just given me a soundtrack to listen to. But it's Hubiku and Bone Wreath are my other 2 songs that I absolutely love. And why I love those songs so much is it reminds me of that slow old school 90s Finnish death metal, where it's almost doom, but it's not quite doom yet. Like it's kind of like, it's so just dark and ugly that you know that these guys want to be a doom band, but they just can't stop playing faster. So, all right. And like, so talk about those 2 songs if you can, because I almost feel like it's death metal, doom metal, and sludge, like all just kind of almost puked together.
Well, for Hubiku, when I was writing Hubiku, I was listening to a lot of Disembowelment at the time. So that's where like that main influence came from. But there's a certain section of the song where the riff starts off by itself and the drums stop and it comes in together. He wrote that riff, and he just made the song just much more aggressive and stuff with that. But and then we just wrote like the rest and stuff together at that point.
Yeah, it was, and that was a matter of like a puzzle too, because it was just like Daniel bringing something in, and then me just like filling that sandwich. You feel me? Like it was, I don't know. The Hubiku came out pretty natural. It was like that middle section, which I like to call the sequence or whatever. Like I don't know. It was just something I sat in my room and just fucking kind of figured out, and like until it was music, you know.
We all roast Alonzo because he's the youngest and stuff, but he's like very, very talented, and he just like shows up with these sick ass riffs.
Nice.
He knows music theory and stuff, and I don't. So he just comes in and he's like, all right, so this is the riff, and then I have to like actually practice, and we have to like, you know how to play and stuff, and you can't just kind of like sleepwalk through it like I used to in some of the other bands I've been in. It's just like 4 notes. You got to do stops and starts, bro.
Yeah, no, and like No, it's just chill. It's cool, man.
I mean, personally too, I like how the song. I mean, not just that song, the like whole album, but he writes it really well because the kid goes to school just for music, so he kind of knows what he's doing when it comes to writing and all that. So it's like this group of five guys, we like mesh so well, and it just I don't know, it's just really hard to explain how like nice that it feels to play with people that all know what they're doing.
Nice. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the record label for a second. Transylvanian, and I know it used to be a tape only label, and now it seems like it's expanding from there. How did you start working with them? And I'm just real happy that you put out a tape release. Too many bands just kind of sit on the CD and think that that's the greatest thing in the world. And vinyl and tapes are really important things to me today. So, can you kind of talk to me how you got hooked up with the label, and how do you feel it's going so far?
Yeah, so I actually James got a hold of me. James is the guy who runs Transylvanian tapes. He's in a few like noteworthy bands. But he actually got a hold of us. We did this compilation with this label called Civerous. Some of our friends run it and stuff. And after we did the compilation, we were planning on doing this live set because during the pandemic there was obviously like no shows.
Mm-hmm.
And we did this live set. We filmed it really, really nicely, and our friend Cody did the audio. And when we had the audio, we're like, "Hey, man, this is pretty good shit. Like, it's tracked very well. Nothing sounds bad. And should we put it out like in a tape?" And we're like, "Yeah, let's just wait to see who comes and bites." And James, because I do the social media, he messaged me and he's like, "Hey, man, this is really good stuff. I would like to put it out on the tape." And at that time, me being the guy I am, I kind of know all the labels that are around and stuff, and I always had like an interest in his because of his bands and stuff. And I was like, "Yeah, man, let's do it, this and that." He did the tape. Now the like one thing that I could say about James that's like completely different from like everyone else is that guy's in a band, so he knows how bands should be treated and how it like what it takes to put out like a tape and treat the bands correctly. Like most of the labels, they're just nerds sitting in their house that just make tapes and they push one band after another, and he like really knows, hey, like this is good, let me push this like a little more and let me like tend to the band this and that. And I mean since last year we've been working with him. I think he's like the top of the top, like in that tier of like labels, you know what I'm saying?
Very cool.
That's what I think. I mean, compared to all the other ones on his level, like he gets lots of traction to his Bandcamp and all that, and super nice guy too. So
yeah, he's amassed like a really good collection of artists through there.
Yeah.
Like we're on the label, but I still like buy tapes like from him just because I enjoy the stuff. Like I want to listen to Cessation at home. And then my other Doom band put out an album on tape through him as well. And then we're planning on meeting up and maybe playing later next year.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Very cool. Very cool. So the next question I got for you guys is, being that bands are being able to start play live again and actually be able to do shows again, how would you say the record differs from you as a live band?
Explain that one more time. I'm like having a hard time.
I mean, we play. I think we play it pretty much to the record. Like we don't stray off too much. We definitely play it in a different order. Like we start off with Crypt, and then Hubiku, and sometimes we'll start with like a section from Rot Delineated. Okay. When we played in Mexico, we played the set of Crypt, Hubiku, and Herodocy, but they actually just started screaming at us to play another song, and we hadn't played the intro, which is the Rot Delineated section. So, I was like, we don't have any more songs, guys. And they just kept yelling, and then Isaiah was just like, "Oh no, intro!" And we jumped into it. Into it.
They were yelling and like throwing big glass beers.
Really rowdy down there.
It was fun though. They were
Very fun.
They actually call these latas over there. Yeah. Remember that.
Very cool. If there was a band you could tour with, who would you want to tour with?
Hard question.
That's a very hard question.
Why don't we all answer that one? That one's like a.
I mean, for me personally, we ever got the opportunity to like play with, I mean, Spectral Voice or Crips, that would be awesome. Or even funeral doom bands like Lycus.
Mhm.
I don't know.
I would say Worm.
Yeah, Worm too.
Worm,
yeah,
for sure.
Worm.
I don't know if Worm plays live, but I would love to play with Worm or who else? Who do you think?
I don't know.
Spectral Voice, obviously.
Yeah.
That's like our one of our biggest influences for sure. You, Drew?
I would say Spectral Voice, Primitive Man.
Oh yeah, Pretty Man.
Just like
A
any.
Hell?
Yeah,
Hell. Yeah, Hell.
Ms. Moore would be super sick. Just like any
Yeah,
of like the bigger like
Yeah.
death doom bands. I joined the band later, but I saw them when they opened for Mortiferum,
Oh wow.
and that was
Those guys
a
too,
great
those guys
set.
too,
Yeah,
I like that band a lot.
yeah,
So
their new album's really good.
yeah, super good.
Yeah, Primitive Man. Every time I see them, it's more and more painful and wonderful. So like anytime I get to see them, it's just phenomenal. They literally played here 2 days before we locked down in Phoenix, and that was the very last show I got to see. So it was complete. It was it was Revocation and Primitive Man. So at least I got like a big hurrah of a good show. Like that was like the way I look at it. Now everything that comes here is in Arizona specifically is very kind of boxed in and very small, and most of the other bands are not coming out here and doing many shows, so it's kind of sad still. But no, I totally dig it. So where you are right now in the world, being on Transylvanian and like being more of on I mean, it's a well-known indie, but it's still an indie. Would you ever want to move to the next level, or do you feel like bands like these need to be on more homegrown labels because that's who helps you out? Because I've noticed that most of the time when death metal bands, doom metal bands, they go to a bigger label, they fall to pieces pretty quickly.
I mean, yeah, like that's a great label. I think most of the bands that are starting to come up and like really get a buzz should stick to those really homegrown labels that like know what they're doing. Personally, we have some big coming up that we can't talk about yet,
Nice.
but we are gonna move up. I mean, I would say it's the next year, right?
So like we love James and we're on Transylvanian and we love that
Forever.
Like
Forever.
we've had opportunities to do other stuff and we wanted to continue to work with James and incorporate him from Transylvania. He said no, and so we stopped that. So a big thing with us is that we haven't like we'll take ideas, we'll take suggestions and criticism, but we don't let like the label tell us like, hey, you have to do this, like you have to change the artwork to this, you have to mix this differently. It's a collaborative effort that we strive for, and so we look for we look for people that feel the same way, that aren't just going to kind of step on our toes for whatever product to sell an album or whatever, because that's not like the end goal for us.
Yeah, and we've even seen like James go above and beyond.
Oh yeah,
like on so many levels. Just the fact that we had like so many variants for that live promo, and like the album coming up is just such a it's such a nice thing that I don't know. So like whether we deserve it or not, but whatever. But like it's truly honored to work with someone like that.
Yeah, but thanks to James, and this is I like attribute this all to James. We do have something bigger coming, because they saw James's label and because they know James and they're like, hey man, we heard you guys stuff, blah blah. James is a good guy, and because of him opening the door for us is why we have all these opportunities now, which is nice.
Cool. So a little bit further on that. So the new material that you're working on right now, how would you say it's different from what we've heard so far?
It's a lot more riffy, for sure. Like a little more technical. I've just been a little more influenced on. I started writing for the album shortly after we finished the first one, so the material is just a little more. It's for sure a little more involved, and we've already kind of started talking about how we want to arrange the next album and the writing process. It's we're doing our best to take the step up. So we're very excited for the new stuff to come.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about the actual tones on the record as well too. So the thing that I really do like about the record is there's two distinct guitar tones. I'm not sure which one does what, so I kind of want to ask the both of you and see which one does more than the other, because one of you has a very, very distinct. So I know this is going to be kind of a generic reference, but it's the only way I can say it. So one of you reminds me of like mid 90s, early 2000s Incantation. Okay, that guitar tone, like that really ugly, sick, vomiting, low end death metal doomy tone. And then the other guy has a much more dissonant, almost jazzy tone to me at times. Like, and you can hear the two of them cut. So I don't know if that's the bass as well doing it and it's everything mixed together. But if you can kind of talk about your guitar tones a bit and even the bass tone, that's fine. But it sounds like two very distinct instruments that become one giant guitar.
Oh man. I think it really just comes down to how we dial in our tones, because I don't know. I'm constantly chasing after tone. So is Alonzo and Drew. So it's I don't know. Like
To me, okay. Let me. If I had to put it in words, I think that Daniel might be that like crushing, more
Okay.
like old school sound. Maybe, I don't know. It's to my ears. The mids are a bit more apparent, and like the high end, which like kind of comes off really crushing at times, just with like high gain amps or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I use like he used a PRS, and I used an orange on the record, so like maybe that'll help like distinguish what what the are.
It does a whole lot when you just said the orange. Now I know who does what and who doesn't do what. So
and
that's right.
It's for sure like tone chasing, like in regards to like any doom metal for sure. I just love like just that thick high gain sound.
that, and just like we rely on our overdrive pedals and stuff, and we really wanted to make sure our tones like cut through the mixes and stuff.
Cool.
And we do play 5-string bass and 7-string guitar.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Also a very important.
Yeah. So it's in G sharp is what we tune to.
That's a tone that I'm definitely hearing. So that's cool. That's where the kind of jazzier, more dissonant sounds would come from then. So that's very cool. So outside of the record, if you could ever have anybody maybe write with you or work with you, is there someone you guys would like to work with on the next record?
I mean, I think we made a step towards that recently, and can I speak about? Yeah. So our engineer that we had for the record on Decrepit Flesh Relic, Andrew Solis, under his studio, is it Dead Stare?
Yeah, Dead Stare Audio.
Dead Stare Audio.
He's an Apparition and Despise You.
Mm-hmm.
Those two bands.
So within like the process of like writing the album and having him like be there, I got to spend a little more one-on-one time with him throughout the process. So we kind of developed like a really nice chemistry, not only like me and him, but the rest of the band as well. And he just became very integral, like accidentally kind of started producing the album without like any of us knowing, and like just obviously realized it by the end. We're like, oh my God, Andrew just kind of like really helped us like put our vision to the next level. So after the album was released and we kind of figured out what was going on, we just kind of it was a no-brainer to kind of start having him a part of the process. So it's not only is it a dream, but like it's like nice to start doing, and we're really looking forward to
that. And then he's like been my friend since 6th grade, so we like seeing each other kind of take the same path in music and come up, and it's finally cool to see someone that's been your friend since a child, and we're finally doing it together on this level. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
Pretty cool.
Cool. So you guys said you work in other bands and have other releases and stuff. How do you feel that plays into Civerous? Do you feel like that your outside influences come into this, or is this completely its own thing and you never bring those influences in?
I 100% draw influences
Yeah.
from everything.
Yeah,
I do.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
it goes back and forth too.
Yeah.
Like
It's-
we bring Civerous stuff to our other bands.
exactly, yeah. And I think that's what like is the most fun part sometimes too, because it like out of habit I'll do that with Civerous, where like just the strings and like the strings alone was enough for me to be like I need to use this tool as much as possible.
Yeah.
So like playing in like a prog band, and I was like, yo, I need to write some heavy shit. Like where do I draw from? And it's just like it's nice to kind of cross over at times, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Dan and I both play like in a black metal band. I'd say. What would you actually name the like genre?
Just
Atmospheric black metal.
atmospheric black metal.
Yeah. So we like pull the. I mean, I pull the like vocal styling, I guess. Some of the like longer howls and some of the effects that you like put on them that you usually put on a black metal record. You know, we kind of incorporate it now to like this one just to give it the little different sound, you know.
Cool. So I'm going to ask this question, and if you guys need a few minutes to answer it, that's fine. I get some really interesting answers from it, so I kind of want to get all your thoughts on it. So let's say you're in a record store. Yes, I'm older. I used to love going to actual stores and buying music. Like I miss those days very much. But let's say there's some 19-year-old kid that just picked up your record for the very first time. He looks over to you and he says, "What the hell do you think this sounds like?" How would you describe it to him?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
My first thought is like, okay, it's fucked. Like, I don't know. I all I could ever really tell anybody is like just thoroughly listen. Like,
Yeah.
don't, like
Honestly, it sounds like the album art. Like
Yeah.
it's
weird.
It's super pointy, you know, and spiky all over, but it's also this weird little concave, like dead relic. I can't even describe it.
yeah.
It's just it's both wide and cavernous, and I know like cavernous death metal or doom metal or whatever is like that is the term, but it's wide and cavernous, but it's also just pointy as shit, and it's gonna cut you up.
Stalactite.
Yeah.
There you go. It is. I guess the last question I'm going to ask has nothing to do with the band in general. It has more to do with you guys. So let's say today was the last day of Civerous. Okay, you all just knew that the band was done. What legacy do you want people to take from what you've done so far?
Fucking really hard question. It's a really hard question.
For me, I don't know. It's the first record being like a debut record for me, and just kind of like starting to put my musical footprint out into the world. I don't know. I enjoyed arranging is like this whole fucking album. So like the fact that like that we try to tell a story through music is just like enough.
Yeah.
For me to be like, all right, like that's my legacy. Listen to it and like have that speak for itself.
Yeah.
Because it's just like it's like I think, and this goes for all of us. We all have a certain like amount of sincerity and honesty with the music. So like trying to attain a type of like integrity with like within the genre and like a band and an artist is just kind of the goal. So
Absolutely.
if I'm not doing that, then I feel like I wouldn't have left a legacy or leave a legacy in this hypothetical question. But like that's pretty much it. Like I just want it to be a body of work that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, I would say too, just don't do it because it's a cool thing to do. Do it because like it's a sub that you like and that's what you want. You know, I've always been told when you make good music is when you write stuff that you would listen to. So that's the way I feel about it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, very awesome. So again, like the reason why I did this interview is you made one of the more interesting records in the last couple months for me, guys. Like, I really do love your record. And from one musician to another musician, like, the reason why I like it is every time I listen to it, and this is probably a horrible thing to say, I steal fucking ideas from your record. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you, all right? I'm not even gonna be like, so I'm signed to a label in the UK called Aesthetic Death, all right? And I've already talked to the label owner there, and I said, you're gonna be getting a really ugly doom metal track, and it's because of these fuckers in Civerous. Like, they just like put it in my head, and I have this riff now. I just want your feedback on it. And he laughed. He totally like was like, send it on over and I'll listen to it, man. But like, you guys have literally fucking influenced me, and that's not a usual thing. Like, I love music, but you're like, there's something about your record that just speaks to me. So I just want to say, like, keep it up, keep doing what you're fucking doing.
Thank you.
And,
Yeah,
and like
We've been getting a lot of good feedback, and it's been very like overwhelmingly good feelings for everybody, because we're still waiting for. I've only had like one person on 4chan, you know, but everywhere else I've seen, everybody's been really nice about it, and we're all very happy.
It is 4chan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's fucking 4chan, man. What are you talking about?
But I only had one person, you know, so I'm like, all right.
We're actually going to be playing in Phoenix on July 18th, if you live in that area, Clint. For anyone in that area.
So you'll have to tell me when you're going to be in Florida, because as of January, I'm moving to the Orlando area.
all right.
Okay.
No mames.
We'll make it out there though. Don't trip. We got you, Clint.
Well,
No, I totally will. I'll be there when you're there, man. But again, guys, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for doing this. This is Clint from the Doorway 2, hanging out with the guys from Civerous. I will make sure that there's links to your Bandcamp, to your social media, so everybody can get in touch with you guys as well. And if you keep making music, I'm going to keep listening to it, guys.
thank you,
Well,
Clint.
thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Later, man.
Peace.